What is good, Guardians? Welcome to another Destiny 2 video from Ultimate Casual Gaming, the home for the casual gamer. I'm just flexing. Now, today's video is a part of our new Weapons Spotlight series, where we showcase a particular weapon in Destiny 2 and talk about what makes it such a solid weapon to use in the game. These weapons may be particularly strong in PvP or PvE, or in the rare case, both. We'll get into the perks of each weapon and what to pair it with in terms of loadout. I'll try to bring these as frequently as I can in terms of this series, as I know there are tons of weapons I want to cover, both new and old, and especially given the recent 1.1.4 patch and all the adjustments they've made to the weapons. Of course, if you find this information useful and are so inclined, please feel free to hit the like button. So without further ado, let's get into our first weapon spotlight here on Ultimate Casual Gaming. We're going to start with the weapon class I've been having the most fun with lately, and that's the small machine gun, or SMG. Now, the SMG we're spotlighting today is one of my favorite guns in the game, and it's called the Hero's Burden. Now, the Hero's Burden, let's talk about this gun and what makes it one of the best overall SMGs in the game, and arguably the best energy SMG in Destiny 2. First, it's a Suros SMG, and Suros, makes some pretty good weapons in this game. It's part of the 900 RPM class of SMG, and the 900 RPM class tends to get a bad rap when compared to the 600 RPM class, which tends to be the one that most people enjoy using, especially when you think about weapons like the Anti-PD. The intrinsic perk on this gun is Adaptive Frame. Nothing too special there, although we will talk about what adaptive frame means in terms of time to kill. The scopes, it's got some decent scopes on it. It has the SLO 10 post, which is more of a short zoom scope, gives you improvement to handling. You've got the SPO 28 front, which is more of a medium zoom, and you've got the SPO front red dot sight, which is a short zoom. The SPO 26 front gives you a little boost to handling at the sacrifice of some of the range. Now, I tend to take this SPO 28 front medium zoom right in the middle because it gives you, the more balance of the range. I like the range on an SMG. It's really important. And this weapon already has great handling. We'll talk about its stats in a second, but it already has great handling. So don't really feel like I need to boost that too much. Now, I don't have this as a masterwork weapon, but I do plan to take it and make it a masterwork weapon soon, and I'm hoping that I'll get a boost to either handling or reload speed to really put this thing over the top. It also has the trait. It has a magazine. It has the magazine type of high caliber rounds. Now, of course, we all know what high caliber rounds means in this game. Although they've nerfed those a little bit from the launch of the game, high caliber rounds still do a nice job, particularly with weapons like these, where you're putting lots of bullets, hopefully in the face of the opposing Guardian, and really helping to throw off their aim a bit and give you more chance to knock them out with this gun. The trait that it has is called Threat Detector. Now, I really like this because you don't see this on a ton of weapons in Destiny 2. This gives you increased reload, stability, and handling when enemies are close. And we'll talk about that one in a minute, but I really like that perk. I do think that it procs a lot, especially if you have an aggressive playstyle, and you'll see that this really does help with the handling. The handling on this gun is really, really good. It's some of the best in the game, and I do think it makes a difference when we're talking about SMGs. Now, a lot of people equate this gun with the new Monarchy Suros SMG, the Royal Dispensation 2. And lots of people love that gun. Now, these guns are very, very similar, and I enjoy that SMG as well. However, the Hero's Burden has better overall base stats in almost every category when stacked up against this gun. Now, their impact is exactly the same, but the Hero's Burden has better range of 64 versus 58. It's got a little bit less stability, and that's where the Royal Dispensation 2 does separate itself. It's got a 54 for the Royal Dispensation on stability versus a 46. But handling wise, they're exactly the same. But this is where you start to see the next few stats, are where you start to see the Hero's Burden separate itself. It's got better reload speed at 58 versus a 54. It's got better aim assistance with a 51 versus a 45, and it's got better recoil direction of 93 versus 90. So Again, when you look at the base stats, really the only thing that the Royal Dispensation 2 has over it is the stability. And if you throw a counterbalance mod on here, I'm not even sure that really matters very much. Now, I know there are some folks who put the stochastic variable at the top of their energy SMG list, and while they certainly can make a strong case, especially given that gun can switch to the 600 RPM archetype of SMG, and if you prefer that, as I said earlier, then it definitely would mean that you give it the nod over the Hero's Burden. But again, I tend to favor the Hero's Burden even over that gun. On base stats versus stochastic variable, it has a much stronger profile, and it also has high caliber rounds on, just like the stochastic variable has, so that's a draw. And really, I guess what it comes down to is the threat detector versus tap the trigger. Now, a lot of people like tap the trigger, though not many people have really studied what that really means. And some say it's kind of a wash, or they would prefer tap the trigger, but I'd argue that threat detector is the better overall pick because it gives you boost to reload, stability, and handling when it procs. That's what really puts it over the top for me. So it has great base stats. It's arguably the best overall base stats in the game for an SMG, but definitely the best of any of the 900 RPM class of SMG. Now, the argument against 900 RPM SMGs has been time to kill and the need to consistently land a bullet hose of shots on the target to take the opposing Guardian down. Now, I'll admit, at first, it took some time for me to get used to this type of class of weapon, especially after I'd been using the anti-PD for so long. It can definitely feel unwieldy at first, but folks, the more I use this weapon and the more I learned how to control the recoil, and remember, it has a 93 for recoil direction, and then when I slapped a counterbalance mod on it, it felt even better. Puts it probably over 100 for recoil, and man, when you're getting headshots with it, it can really down an opposing Guardian pretty stinking fast. Now, the adaptive frame 900 RPM class of SMG has a time to kill, or a best time to kill of 0.93 when you're talking about low armor Guardians, and roughly a second with high armor Guardians. Now, that compares pretty well with the 600 RPM class types like the anti-PD, which has an ideal time to kill of 0.9 versus low armor, and the exact same a second versus high armor. So it's really 0.93 versus 0.9, and that's assuming all crits here, folks. And we know how unrealistic that is to expect in your fights, especially with an SMG. So this is where it gets interesting. The time to kill for the Hero's Burden with all body shots, though, is only 1.07 in low armor and 1.13 against high armor. Now let's look at the anti-PD. The anti-PD against low armor, 1.2 with all body shots, and 1.3 with high armor and all body shots. So essentially, the Hero's Burden is much more forgiving with you and where you place your shots than a lot of the 600 RPM class of SMGs, including the anti-PD. And that's why many Guardians like me have been coming around to it and realizing that this thing simply wrecks people once you learn how to use it effectively. Now, with the recent Go Fast update, SMGs didn't see a buff really at all as it relates to PvP. Really all you saw was that they increased the ammo reserves, and that was mainly for PvE so they could get become more viable in PvE activities. I had already been using SMGs in PvE activities. I think they're really good there, but I definitely like the added ammo. I think that's going to help. Now, that said, the changes to lots of other weapon types have given you more options to pair with the Hero's Burden in your kinetic slot. Myself, I've been playing with a number of pulse rifles in the game, trying those out since pulses have gotten some really nice buffs and are perfect for those mid-range to long-range encounters. Of course, SMGs do tend to favor a more aggressive playstyle, and if you like to get up and close and personal with other players like I do, then this is the perfect gun for you. Now, it is an Iron Banner weapon and should still be available when the next Iron Banner comes around, I think next week. So make sure you work at getting those tokens so you can get your hand on it. Maybe they'll even drop it for you. Bottom line is, if you don't have this already, you really should try and get it. Use it. You won't be disappointed. So that's the Hero's Burden, the first weapon featured in our Weapon Spotlight series. Let me know in the comments section what you think of the Hero's Burden. Are you using it? How does it stack up with some of the SMGs you've used in the past? Do you like it better than, say, the anti-PD or the Royal Dispensation? Let me know your thoughts. As always, I hope you found the content of this video helpful and certainly appreciate you watching. Of course, if you're new here, we do lots of videos like this on Destiny 2, so if that's what you're looking for, then I encourage you to subscribe. That's all for now. A sincere thanks to all you gamers out there, both casual and hardcore. Let's go and get our game on.